I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10 by 7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Is broadcast in the evening news. I will be relieved. La, la, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. La, 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 la. Singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Fuck.
Yes, everybody, it is me, Matt Wright, here live with you on this fantastic Thursday night on Muddied Waters Media, hosting a brand new episode of the Writer's Block. It has been, what, a month since the last Writer's Block? And to all of the Blockians out there who like to tune in every Thursday night, as opposed to watching football or whatever people do on Thursdays. I don't know anymore. I appreciate each and every one of you, because without any of you, none of this would make any sense. So thank you to each and every one of you. And allow me to thank, starting off, this wonderful back to air action of the Writer's Block. Knock 'em all at home for the kava I am drinking on today's episode. You are looking for something that tastes like a potato's liquefied, and you can't drink alcohol with it, and it doesn't taste good at all, but it kind of relaxes you. Go to knock'emallathome.com today. Bulavanaka. First, let's start off by saying, no matter where you are watching this, make sure that you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the follow button. Make sure you hit the whatever other button that there is to hit. Hit enable notifications. Hit whatever. And if you truly like what you see and what you hear, make sure that you go to anchor.fm/muddiedwaters/subscribe and become a member of the, I hate calling it anything that it called it, but join the group, the smartest group out there on the internet, by becoming a member of the Muddied Waters Media team. You get lots of great stuff. You get a monthly Zoom call. You get exclusive content. You get 10% off at the store. You get 20% off at defythepower.com. Lots of great things. Anchor.fm/muddiedwaters/subscribe. So before we go any further, allow me to thank the people who pay our bills mainly, like Joe Solosky. He's running for governor of Pennsylvania, and we're going to be talking about Pennsylvania a lot today. So Joe Solosky, he is the key to Pennsylvania's success. I used the wrong video. I got a new computer and put the wrong video for his thing. Also, let's thank Thomas Queter. Thomas Queter is a wonderful, wonderful man who says he runs better than Albany. And that's funny because he is in a wheelchair and he basically doesn't have like legs. I mean, he does. You can see them. They're there. They're little. They don't work. But he runs better than Albany. So go to Tom for 52, TOMFOR52.com and support Tom Queter today. This episode is also brought to you by Mudwater. If you wake up in the morning and you're like, I hate myself and I want something that's not as good as coffee with less caffeine, and won't get me all jittery like I've been up all night doing illicit drugs, but instead I want something that's going to ease me into my day, go with Mudwater. It's got masala chai, cacao, mushrooms, turmeric, sea salt, cinnamon, and that is it. It tastes exactly like you think those things are going to taste when you mix them in water. So be sure to add honey. Trust me, you're gonna want to add honey to this concoction. Jack Casey. Jack Casey has written some books. I have not read these books. I won't read these. If I was going to push books that I have read, I'd be like, go to Amazon and find books written by me, Matt Wright. There are 2 out there. But Jack Casey pays me to push his books. I won't read them because I don't want to push books on you that are terrible. And if they turn out to be good, I will feel very bad about some of the stuff that I've said about Jack Casey and his books right here on this show. I also did not frame this correctly when I was quickly adding it. So we're just going to do that right now. But Jack Casey, go to theroyalgreen.com and get your Jack Casey fix today. Also, if you want to, head on over to muddiedwatersmedia.com/store, muddiedwatersmedia.com/store, and pick up this shirt. Get the writer's block shirt. Not many people have gotten the writer's block shirt. Now, my guest tonight is a wonderful person, and she is, I believe, if I am correct, only the 3rd person to appear on the writer's block twice. Only the 3rd person to appear on the writer's block twice. We all remember when she was on roughly 5 months ago. Please welcome 3 months ago. She's telling me 3, and I believe her. Please welcome with me Kristine Womack, everybody. Kristine, how are you today?
I am good, a little under the weather, but I still had to be on here because I love you and I need to represent my husband, who is even more under the weather than me. So
yeah, and just so everybody knows, Dave, your husband, yes. he was supposed to be the person who was coming on. He is under the weather, as you said, and he is unable to be here. So our condolences to him, and we hope for a very speedy recovery.
Thankfully, it's just laryngitis that's been plaguing our house, and anything more serious than that. So
yes, and that's definitely, especially today's world, where everybody's like, "Oh, you don't feel good? Stay away from me. Stay away from me with your COVIDedness, because you're going to kill my grandmother."
I need that shirt, by the way. I mean, if I'm one of the only 3 people that's been on the show more than one time.
You, Dan Berman, and Aaron's last name now. Got married. Aaron Edwards.
Okay.
You, Aaron Edwards, and Dan Berman are the only 3 people who have been on my show.
I feel privileged, so thank you for having me back on.
As you should. That is the right feeling to have. So,
oh my goodness.
Since we've had you on before, we've already discussed how you became a libertarian. We can kind of get into everything that's going on with you and with Dave. So last time we talked, I mentioned that where you live apparently has more hours in the day than anywhere else, because you do more in the day.
I told you what I did today, you wouldn't believe it. So
probably not. I've got a slight touch of the laryngitis, but I still went out this morning and I chopped a bunch of firewood, and then I went to the store, which is 20 miles away, and I picked up groceries for the week, and then picked up the kids, and then I coached them, and whatever sport is happening right now, and then came home, made dinner for everybody, put them into bed, and now I'm doing this. Oh yeah, after I had the Pennsylvania LP call.
Yeah, close. I had dentist appointment. I dressed as the Grinch for a holiday party for some kids at our school district. Then I worked, and then I went to the store, came home, made dinner, and then listened to the JC hearing, and then now I'm here.
Well, I am glad. BDSM gurus, the poor video quality on my end or the stream. Let me know what it looks like because I may have a quick fix for it. One that's going to make me very upset, but I think I might have a quick fix for it. So let me know. Yeah, no.
So if it means anything, my signal looks good on my screen, like what I see for you. So
okay, it was on his end. Cool. All right, I was very worried on whether or not this was going to work the way I wanted it. But yeah, I mean, as we learned last time, you're like the army in the 80s where, you know, we do more before 5 a.m. people do all day. So it is good to see that has not changed.
Nope. And won't anytime soon if I have anything to say about it. So
perfect. So Dave, he was one of the 149 libertarians.
156 is the current elected total for Pennsylvania.
156. Okay. Yeah. In the notes that I had, 149 was what I was told. So I was like,
no, that was fine. That was probably the number like 4 or 5 days ago. But Jen has been another person who has more hours in the day than the rest of everybody, has been auditing county by county to see who got elected as a libertarian.
Okay. So we're up to 156 libertarians elected to office in Pennsylvania. That is absolutely unbelievable. And many of this is because of the
Molten maneuver.
Molten maneuver. I was going to call it the Molten method, and I was like, I don't know method.
No.
The Molten maneuver, which for anybody out there who doesn't know, can you explain what the Molten maneuver?
So my understanding of the Molten maneuver as it started is Chuck Moulton, the genius that he is, realized that there's like not a flaw, but like a loophole in the system in Pennsylvania where the primaries end and we still have like 2.5 months to when paperwork needs to be submitted for anybody running as none of the major parties. So we figured out what races had no one running, and we utilized those to encourage libertarians to run for those positions. And they are borough council, they're mayor. There was actually some in York County that were mayor that had no one running for them. Auditors, constables, inspector of elections, and other things like that. But we encourage people, we send out letters, and we ended up having 156 people elected. And that's with write-in. That's with write-in and people who ran actual campaigns.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, and that's amazing. And I know that Spike has been going around talking about all over the country, saying that this is something that every state needs. This is if you want to get libertarians in order to prove that libertarians can do what we have been saying for 50 years now. This is what you have to do. Get their name out there. People go, okay, this is working. Keep voting for people. And from there, you'll move up to your state house or state commonwealth.
The key thing about Molten maneuver, and there's been some backlash. There's some people who don't necessarily support it, which I don't understand why, but that's another story. Is that their complaint is that these are the scraps that no one wanted, and we need my focus on the Molten maneuver is that we need to make the word libertarian be known on the ballot. Make it recognized. It's not some rare thing that happens every once in a blue moon. It's a consistent thing. And actually here in York County, we're talking about having people run for multiple races. Now you can only accept one, but if you run a contested race, they're going to see a libertarian running against the Republicans and Democrats. And then you can also run the uncontested race where you have the still possibility of basically a win. And that's the key here is, yes, we're getting people in, and the people who are running as constable can then potentially run as sheriff.
Right.
Or people who are running as auditor or borough council can run for mayor or city council, things like that. It's growing, and it's little baby steps that help to make those big leaps later on, and is making the party recognizable and known in the daily life, that we're not just here every 4 years to be a spoiler in the presidential election.
Right. And so many people accuse us of just being that. Like,
That,
you're just here to try to make sure that my team doesn't win. And whichever person you're, whatever.
I'm here to
party-
make sure both teams don't win.
Right. I
That
don't
is
want
an
either of you to
accurate
win.
statement, but it's not just for your team, it's for both teams.
Right. It's, trust me, if I could have my cake and eat it too, neither of you would win. But because you're the one that said it, I'm rooting against your team.
Yeah.
So 156 libertarians elected in Pennsylvania. That, again, amazing. And you know, it does help. It educates people on what it is that libertarians are. That is what is important in growing the party and getting more. So it was fantastic. Now, Dave was running for borough council in Dallastown.
Dallastown, yep. He was running for a 2-year borough council seat, uncontested. It had been vacant for over a year. No one was even, from my understanding, even inquiring to be appointed to the position. So yeah, he ran for an uncontested seat. So the previous person who had that seat ended up running for commissioner of York County and won, and is actually the person who signed his certificate of election, which is the irony there. But so yeah, he was running an uncontested seat for a 2-year seat in the Dallastown Borough Council. Now, he actually ended up getting over 400 votes. He got 404 votes for his seats. And the people running for their 4-year seats, the incumbents that were running for re-election, he got more votes by more than 40, I think, from the highest vote getter from the incumbents. So the highest person over there was like 370-ish or something like that. And he got more than them. He actually spent all day from about 7:30 to about 6. So 85% of the day outside of the poll, talking to the constituents. I stood at the other one. So we've had both of the 2 polls covered in our borough. And he was telling them it's an uncontested win. So I'm pretty much a guaranteed win, but I want you to know who you're voting for before you come in there and vote for me. Like, I want you to see me. And, you know, I have no ill will against anybody that's currently on the board, the council. In fact, the president's wife is my vice president on the PTO. So, you know, I have no ill will to any of these people. I really don't know them because I don't really ever see them out.
Right. And
but they weren't out working to try and re-win their election.
Well, yeah, when you're running uncontested, you really don't need.
Exactly.
You can just kind of show up.
Unless you want them to know who you are.
Right. Now, from what I understand is that the borough council has gotten together and they are trying to distance themselves from Dave and not allow him to take his seat that he won.
So what they stated on Monday when Dave made his official statement of accepting the position and commitment to take the oath in January is that they don't have a say in this. They did admit to calling the DA after a constituent, and I know who this constituent is, but we won't go there. After a constituent,
we don't want to dox them right now. I mean,
nope. That would not be great for my personal life. Correction. I am 90% sure I know who it is. Went to the borough office to make a complaint, and they admitted that happened. And then they admitted that they called the DA on behalf of the constituent, even though the constituent has the ability to call the DA themselves to make the complaint. They did it on behalf of the constituent, and that was the only participation that they had in the thing. However, their solicitor sent Dave a letter stating that his previous felonies from nearly 20 years ago disqualify him from holding office. However, and he quoted section 2, article 2, section 7, I believe it is, of the Pennsylvania Constitution.
I was trying to see if it was in my notes anywhere, and I was like, oh yeah, Article 2, Section 7. Yep.
I did good talking points for him. Article 2, Section 7, it talks about how you can't hold office for the General Assembly if you've had embezzlement, all of these different things. And then it says other infamous crimes. And then when you look up other infamous crimes, it says the 10 preceding years. Well, Dave's are 19 years ago by the time he takes office. And let's not fail to mention that it's talking about the General Assembly,
right?
Which is Pennsylvania state senators and representatives. It is not borough council.
Right.
Yeah.
And what? So yeah, the way that I read it when I was reading, because I read Dave's statement, and in it I was like, if this is only for the General Assembly, like why is this even something that they're attempting to push?
So their argument is that because it says of office of trust.
Okay.
They're using that as their reference point. And, I
but
came back.
Ignoring the 10 years thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're ignoring the fact that it says under General Assembly. Like because, he and I looked through this because we knew his past. He has 6 felonies, just for reference for anybody who's interested and wants to maybe help out with, getting Dave into this office. His 6 felonies are from 2003. He was a stupid child who was dealing with some addiction, and his friends decided to rob a convenience store with a BB gun. And then they decided to steal beer from a beer distributor. And then I think they went and stole cigarettes from another convenience store. And, I think he ended up getting caught with his dad's gun when he was on the run, because he was a 22-year-old who had never been in trouble before.
Right.
But no one was ever hurt. There was no children involved, nothing crazy or ridiculous. It was poor choices. And I know we've all made poor choices. I just never know, not that bad, but but
I like how so quickly you were like, it was like, we all make poor choices. I mean, I have, well, not anything,
not
like
that bad,
not that bad.
I have a fear of consequences, so I overthink stuff. But the point that he's trying to put through isn't, he wants to be on council. He wants to make a difference. He's active in his local community. He does PTO events with me. We do trash cleanups. He volunteers his time at the local veterans center, homeless center, to use his construction skills. He's a pillar in this community, and he wants to have a voice in helping our borough move forward. And that's key here, but it's also in realizing that if this is what is affecting someone who's a middle-aged white guy, what's happening to these minority communities?
Yes.
Where these teenagers who are 16, 17 are getting charged with drug felonies, and then they end up being rehabilitated, which is the purpose of prison. And then they end up wanting to be part of their community and serve them after doing their time. Like, what's happening there? This is an unjust law, and it needs to be addressed. And that's what Dave's ultimate goal here is, that, ultimately he wants to serve on the council, but he wants to make sure that this law changes, and he wants to make sure that it changes for everybody. And if that is just locally, state, or nationally, and that is his goal here.
Yeah. And so as a libertarian, obviously I'm not a fan of people commit crimes against somebody, like any crime that hurts somebody else. Like, there has to be a victim. And yes, I would say that what Dave did, there is a victim. Free, it sounded like, but also I know that he served 4 years
of his 3 to 6 year sentence.
Of his 3 to 6 year sentence. I know he served 4 years for these crimes. And if this is somebody that you still feel is a danger to society or a danger to himself, why? So once they get out, I personally think all rights need to be restored. You need to treat them like nothing has ever happened in the past.
Yep.
If you are worried that they are going to continue to commit some sort of heinous crime against somebody else, you shouldn't let them out of prison.
Exactly.
And I've talked about it on the show a lot. I have struggled with addiction. If you name it, I've probably it was not an easy thing to get through. So I understand the addiction. I definitely, when I was going through some of the harder parts of that, I did things I'm not proud of. I was just lucky enough I didn't.
Yeah, Dave's situation is he was dealing with those and he passed out on the backseat of the car, and his friends were inside. So Dave was an accomplice to the actions while not necessarily being actually in a part of them. However, with the way that the law works is he's charged just like them. And that's why he has what he has. So I agree. I mean, yes, he did harm or was a part of harm being done to a business and an establishment, and putting someone in a position where they felt like their life was in danger because they used a BB gun. And I can't tell the difference between a BB gun and a regular gun. I'm not that, I don't know that much about guns. So, that was, but then, for those, Dave made a really good point Monday, is that those who reoffend, it's 46% of people still reoffend. And he made sure he was not going to be one of those numbers.
Yeah.
And he's done that.
Basically a coin flip.
Yeah, basically. And he made sure that he did not reoffend in his life. He's lived his, I don't remember the last time he's gotten a speeding ticket. So like, he really just, tries to be an example. And I think that having our son now as that, to be that role model for it, this is proof. And he just wants to show him that, you can make mistakes, but you need to learn from them and move forward. And that's why he wanted to run for council. And, we were really excited that he won. And now we're stuck with this, this dilemma, but this situation where, we have to try and convince the DA to try to not pursue it. Because here's the thing, is that the mayor of York City, who I ended up introducing Spike to when he was here in York, he's a felon. He's a felon and he's mayor of York City. He has drug trafficking offenses from the early 90s, and he's mayor. And there's someone who just won mayor up in northern Pennsylvania from the Moulton Maneuver. She was not a Moulton Maneuver candidate, let me say that. She actually ran a contested race and won fairly, which is awesome. But she has a felony on her records, and I won't dive into it because that's not my place to tell, but hers is more recent. Dave's is almost 20 years old, and hers is literally within the last few years. So, this is not just a random thing. There's cases where that they never pursued it or haven't yet pursued it. And it makes you question about the partisan. And, the president got really mad at the borough council meeting on Monday. I mean, he was like shaking a little bit. I felt really bad because we are acquaintances and friends, and I didn't want to put him in that situation. But he got really mad when someone addressed that it was a partisan situation. And it's like, whether you try to make it partisan or not, it's still a partisan position. And there's still some loyalties that you may not try and put forth, but you definitely still do. And I want to believe that it's not that. But he was actually going to appoint Dave. He talked to Dave about trying to appoint him earlier this year. And now all of this is happening, and it just makes us question, what's really going on here. So our next steps, not that you asked for them, but I'm going to give them to you anyway.
So before we get to the next steps, I do have a couple of questions. I was wondering, like, what is the goal? Like, do they want nobody to be in this council seat? Do they want to appoint somebody? Like, is there like a backup plan, or is it just like anti-Dave?
So we got them to acknowledge what would happen at the meeting on Monday. So if Dave were to be found ineligible for the position by the court, if the DA were to pursue it, then they would make an announcement that the seat is vacant, and then they would have 30 days to take applications and resumes for someone to be appointed. That person would then have to run if they decided they wanted to maintain that seat in the election in November.
Okay, so there would be like an interim
Yeah.
borough council member that would sit in until November elections in 22.
Yeah, and let's just make sure we reiterate this, is that the seat was already vacant and no one
Right.
wanted to fill that seat for last over a year. So
Right. Yeah. I believe you said it had been vacant for like a year and a half or 2 years.
something like that, yeah,
Yeah.
for a significant long time.
Right. And I mean, that's insane because somebody admittedly made a mistake in which he also says, look, I was struggling. I was addiction. I was doing all of this. I got caught up in this terrible scenario, served my time. Since then, like you said, has been going out and doing a lot of work for the homeless shelters, been doing community work. He's on the PTO. He is showing that you can turn your life around. He is somebody out there who is showing, look, I made mistakes when I was younger. I don't live by them. I am one of the 54%.
The success stories.
Right. I'm one of the 54% who didn't recommit. So instead, I turned my life around. He owned a business and then he sold it.
Yep.
I know I saw that in my somewhere. And
Yep, he owned a steel fabrication company with his
Yep.
cousin's husband. And it's still up today and running. I mean, at one point they had done over $1 million in a year. As of right now, he's second in command at his job. It's his boss, and then it's him on who makes decisions. And he was actually told by his boss and her husband that in the event she would want to step away and not be a part of the everyday activities, that he would be the one to take over. So he's in a position of trust there. Now, granted, it's not, within the society standpoints, it's a private business. But I mean, if she can delegate all of that trust in hundreds of $1,000 projects,
oh yeah,
I mean, there has to be something to be said for that.
and I don't know how much the Dallastown Borough. You guys, is that like county?
No, so it's got, the county is larger, and then you have different little municipalities. There's about 3,500 registered voters in Dallastown Borough.
Okay. So yeah, I can't imagine that the Dallastown Borough is dealing with like massive amounts of anything, and he wasn't caught for embezzlement. He wasn't caught for that. He got caught being at 22. Like, I hate to say it, a lot of people who are watching this at 22, you're still a kid, and when you're 22, you are still going to make dumb mistakes. If I look back at when I was 22 years old, I remember a lot of the decisions that I made. Well, I remember most of them. A lot of them I can't remember because I struggled with addiction for a really long. But I remember a lot of the decisions that I made, and a lot of the people that I dated, and a lot of the life choices and I'm not proud of many of them.
Yeah.
So I would hate for somebody to sit there, and if I were to run for something, pull something from years old and say, well, you did this, then I would have to look them in the eye and go, honest, but I'm not going to doubt you. But I would hate for that to be what they are reminding me of, what they believe they think I should be judged on.
We're told daily to learn from our mistakes. I mean, that's something I teach in the schools, and we teach the kids, is this a good choice or a bad choice? And, they go, it's a bad choice. Are you going to do it again? No, you learn from your mistakes, and that's how you grow as a person. And especially in a society, that's how you grow as a voter and as a community, activist and things like that. And he made a really good point at Monday's Borough Council meeting, is like, if you've never been in the shoes that I've been in, then you don't know the problems that we have in this government. And, until you can see the laws from the other side, how will you know what needs reform? And I think that's a key thing to say here is, to say you smoked a joint or something is not to have been caught with it and to be jailed for it, to see, you got away with smoking a joint. Fantastic. And I'm probably using all the wrong lingo because I've never done any of that. But anyway,
No,
but
you would smoke a joint. That is
okay.
You at least got that.
So, but to try and compare apples and oranges, it's asinine. And, to have someone on there who has some life experience tell you how the other side sees it or how the other side is affected is going to be beneficial to any society, not just Dallastown, but York City, York County, all of Pennsylvania, Detroit, Michigan, whatever.
Right.
It's going to be beneficial everywhere.
And we talk a lot on Muddied Waters of Freedom and on actually every show that we have on. We talk a lot about criminal justice reform because a lot of it is intended to make sure that people will commit more later. It is intended to keep people down. They say this is for your own good. And so once you get out, they give these insane probation fees, insane meetings. When I went through probation, I went probation for 2 years, monthly with random drugs, which, I figured fix that. But like I had to pay X amount, then I had X amount of community service. And I was like, how do I have time to even work when I also have to do community service? And I'm showing up randomly for drug tests and I have to do this. And then whenever I say, hey, I have to leave because I have to go meet my PO, my boss is like, that really is somebody I really want to have here. I have to explain to him why I'm there and then defend why I should continue working there, which is how you find yourself in other jobs that aren't exactly legal. And then you get arrested. I did that day. But that's how people end up getting arrested again, and they find themselves back in the system. And it's just meant to recycle people over and over and over again. To be somebody who gets out and doesn't ever reoffend is nearly, well, it's about it's a coin flip on whether or not it's possible or not. And to the people that can do it, it's amazing. To the people who can't do it, I understand, and we need to fix the system because the system has been rigged from the beginning in order to make sure that you do reoffend. Because they want you to be in there. If it's private prisons, it's because they get money from the state. If it's non-private prisons, it's because they want the free labor. It's all set up in order that people continually end up in that system, in that cycle. Forever be a slave of the government.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
I don't know how to follow that up, but that's 100% accurate. I mean, it's absurd. And, it's supposed we feed everybody the line that it's rehabilitation and everything like that, but it's not. It's a paycheck for all of these crony companies and the crony government to just keep these people locked up. And it's destroying families, it's destroying communities, it's destroying everything. And it's not beneficial to the American society as a whole.
Right. And I get into this conversation a lot with mainly Republicans. I used to get into it with Democrats too, but now more on Republicans. Republicans are even idea system. If somebody gets out, all rights need to. If they're like, well, they committed a violent felony and they shouldn't be able to own a gun. And I'm like, well, the Second Amendment that you hold so dear says shall not be infringed. Well, yeah, but they, murdered somebody. Why are they out of prison? They're going to murder somebody else? I don't know, maybe. Well, then why did you let them out of prison? If you think that they might murder again, don't let them out of prison. I don't know if you know this, but according to FBI statistics, most people are murdered with hammers, I think. I'm pretty sure it's hammers.
It sounds about accurate.
Right. So why, if you're going to let them out, give them their voting rights. Let them own weapons. Let them do whatever.
I will say in Pennsylvania, while you don't get your gun back, We do restore voting rights, and this was one of my fun experiences with Spike when he was up here. You have to be free of any debt to the state, so you can't owe any money or have probation or anything like that. But the moment you are out of any debt to the state and can't like be sent back to prison, then you have your voting rights reestablished. And if we realize that they can vote, I feel like they should be able to run for office. And here's the thing, he can run for president.
Mm-hmm.
He can run for US Congress.
Right.
But they won't let him be on a borough council with 3,500 voting people.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. If the law was that anybody with a felony wouldn't be able to run, there'd probably be a lot of senators sweating their positions. And also really glad that their dad had money to pay.
Yep.
Make sure that did not for record. Fun little fact I'm going to tell you about myself. So I went through probation for something stupid. I got caught in Virginia, and that ended up being 2 years of probation. It was a second offense because I got this kid's on his way to being an awful human being. But it was making it hard to find jobs. I ended up finding work. I don't want to call it a job because it wasn't legal. But I ended up finding a way of making money where I was dealing cards at an underground poker tournament room. Yeah. And we had games like 4 nights a week. I was making insane money because I don't want to know how much money when I was doing illegal things. And I ended up missing a night. I was like, hey, I'm not going to come in. I have a date. And they were like, okay, cool. Go. I was like, cool. I'll be there on Saturday. That night, the game got raided by the cops. And everybody there got arrested. I had them. I still got called in for questioning because my name was in a book because they owed me like $1,000, and I never got them.
But you didn't go to jail.
But I didn't go to jail, so it was
pros and cons. Pros and cons.
But yeah, that's what the system does. Like, it kind of pushed me into this scenario. I didn't really have a choice I was like, I need a job. And somebody said, can you deal cards? And I said, I can real fast. Got a job. And so I started doing it. And I did it for years. It was. And then I got off probation while I was there. That did not help my addiction issue. But so what is it that people can do in order, like, I know that you guys are trying to fight the deep. I know that you're trying to fight this. You're working on a way to make sure that Dave can take his rightful seat. His rightful seat on January 3rd. Yeah. What is it what are the steps? What are we planning on doing?
So in the next couple of weeks, we're working on trying to encourage people, ask for support, and reaching out to the local DA. To encourage him to not pursue this, that it was an uncontested seat that had been sitting vacant for about a year or over a year. And that there's already Mayor Helfrich, who has felonies, who's serving as mayor. And just, we ask that you do it politely and respectfully, because we don't want to, make it worse. But, and then, I can't stop people from reaching out to the Dallastown Borough, but, and Dave might kill me for saying this, but he's drugged up upstairs with some NyQuil. So, the borough
he'll hear this tomorrow.
The borough are friends of ours, and they do stuff for the community. But as we all know, that things start locally, and they have the ability to ask them not to pursue this. They have the ability to say that we don't want to follow this law that they deem is relevant in this case. But when you look at the PA handbook for the boroughs, it states the only requirement qualification needed is a residency requirement, which he succeeds and meets by over 6 years. You know, if anybody would like to, we're not gonna push, but you know, again, you can ask them to show support to Dave. They specifically said, the borough manager, or I'm sorry, not her, the borough president specifically said during Monday's meeting that Dave is a pillar in this community. And so he acknowledges that. And I don't understand why you wouldn't want that in the council. So, I mean, they have the ability to show support and ask the DA whether they want to admit it or not. And so, but really we're asking people to reach out to the DA. We have established a Facebook page. It's called Qualified to Serve. And it is for the efforts of changing laws like this and other ones going forward. In the event that the DA wants to pursue this, we will have, what?
Sorry, is that facebook.com/qualified to serve? Just
Yes.
Okay. Yep. I wanted to make sure before I hit enter.
No, you're fine. In the event that the DA wants to pursue this, we have a website ready to go up, which will have a legal fund donation link in there for anybody who would like to donate to this cause. All this money will go towards fighting Dave's case and then fighting other cases to change the law here in Pennsylvania and hopefully nationally where applicable. And we're actually looking for anybody who would be interested in providing any content for the website as well, to provide backstories and perspectives that might help in pushing forward and changing this law. So right now, what's up is the Facebook page, which is Qualified to Serve on Facebook. And then if anybody would have any questions or want to know how else they can help, we have qualified to serve at gmail.com as a reach of contact for Dave and myself.
And I am putting all of that comments here and on the website and on the show notes. Well, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely insane. So everybody politely with
reach out to Dave Sunday.
Reach out to Dave Sunday.
He's the district attorney in York County.
Phone number 717-771-9600.
Yep. And his email is dwsunday@yorkcountypa.gov.
York County DW Sunday, Darkwing Sunday at yorkcountypa.gov.
One other thing we've thought about doing real quick is we've actually had a lot of support from local residents in the borough that they don't care about his past and they would want him to serve. So something we are contemplating doing during the holiday break is going around to petition. So if anybody is local and would like to help us go around and petition and get signatures from those that would be okay with him serving on the council despite his backstory, we welcome you to reach out to us to help us. You know, there's 3,500 registered voters in Dallastown, and we would like to reach a majority of those.
Something I wanted to ask that I forgot to ask earlier. Where did this, what happened 20 years? Where was this?
York County.
So the people in the area probably already had some sort of idea that this had happened.
Yeah. And the person who I believe brought this to the borough made it a statement to someone else who told me back in July. And for those who don't know, the filing period for Pennsylvania, paperwork had to be submitted by the beginning of August. So they had this knowledge prior to him filing the paperwork that they could have challenged his paperwork and did not. And then the state certified his win. So this could have all been addressed back in July, early August, and we could have just been told, oh, he doesn't qualify back then, and not had to deal with this. And then I could have ran, to be honest with you, for this seat and, and still been a thorn in their side. Right. But
and add another thing to do to your day.
Yeah. Because why not?
Why not? Why not? Because there's 29 hours a day in York County, Pennsylvania, especially in Dallas.
Especially in Dallastown, yes.
Especially in Dallastown. Yeah, so everybody go reach out to Dave Sunday, the district attorney of York County. Please do it politely.
Assertively,
Assertively, but politely.
but politely.
Like, don't go threatening anybody.
No, please don't
any
do
family.
that.
Don't do that. Just say, hey, look, this is wrong. This shouldn't. That was 20 years ago. In the Pennsylvania Constitution, it says in the last 10 years. And
The Pennsylvania Constitution actually doesn't state any, it states felonies while in office for public officers, for people running for borough and things like that. It actually says to be committed of a felony while in office. The only thing about the felonies previously, which was, by the way, I forgot to say this earlier, I'll say it real quick. That law was changed. It used to be on a case-by-case basis, but in 2011, a Wrightsville, which is also York County. Apparently we have all the felons in York County. And there's Philadelphia in the state, so who would have known? The guy who was running for mayor or something in Wrightsville had bribery charges or something. I don't know. It was some crazy stuff with pictures. I'm not entirely sure of the whole story, but that's what actually changed the case law for this specific standing, where they added other infamous crimes. So it's just, yeah. So we want to just make them known that he's not running for General Assembly. So Article 2 does not. Yeah,
Article 2 does not qualify.
Yeah, is not part of what he's running. So, and it's not referenced in the borough handbook, which in the borough handbook, it references Article 7, I believe it is, which is the public officers section. It references that. It says, look there. So if it wanted Article 2, Section 7 or 6 or whatever it is to be referenced as a point of qualifications, then it should reference it in the borough handbook. And if that's the case, then you need to make those adjustments. But Dave was given Pennsylvania constitutions by our local representative that were fixed in 2018 and printed in 2021. And infamous crimes does not state felonies at all, even under the section that they're using. So everything is just, it's the government. It just doesn't make sense.
It is the effective and efficient government that so many people believe every single day in the newest form of the first release.
But yeah, so respectfully but assertively reach out to Dave Sunday at DW at York PA, yorkcountypa.gov,
right,
or at the phone number that Matt just said,
717-771-9600.
And they're open from 8 to 4:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Yes. You can also go to the Facebook page. You can like it. You can find updates that are happening, and you can also reach out to help in any way if you want to there, or at qualifiedtoserve@gmail.com.
Yep, that's the tagline he's using, because he wants to make this more widespread than just this specific case. He wants to change the laws because they're unjust.
Yes, and I will say this is a great springboard to, like, it's terrible that I don't want that to get misconstrued, but it's a great springboard to be able to bring more attention to something like that, where you can say, look, 20 years ago I made a mistake. I obviously made a mistake. These people tried to keep me. We need to change the laws that make do that. That way this can't happen to somebody else. And like you said earlier, this does disproportionately minorities and lower income areas than it would from so in order to make sure that this doesn't happen to people who are trying to better their community, better their lives, trying to make an improvement, need to get these laws changed. Because again, if you have served your time and you haven't been a reoffender, there is no reason that you shouldn't be able to run for office. There isn't a reason you shouldn't be able to vote. There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to. You should be able to do anything.
Follow up on that, two things. One is, when you fill out a job application, a lot of them state, have you had a felony in the last 7 years? 10 years. There's, maybe there should be some kind of time restraint after having committed a felony and, what have you. That's for a discussion another time. But I mean, if you can fill out an application and not have to, if he doesn't have to put it on his application now because it's past the time frame that, the standard is, why is it still a concern here? And the other thing slipped my mind, so it's apparently not relevant.
As my dad used to say, when I was like, I came in here to tell you something, but I forgot what it was, he would always say, "What's important?" Thanks, Dad. Now I find myself using his idioms, and I hate it.
It's the torture of growing old. My dad likes to say it is what it is, and I used to hate that, and now I use it like all the time.
All the time. Yeah, my dad used to do, I would ask him, can we do something? He would say no, and why? And he goes, because isn't an answer. Now I'm like, because isn't an answer. It's a good enough.
Yes. Why can't you? Because I said you can't.
Because I said you can't. Why can't we do that? Because, and if I finish that sentence, I don't want. Also, you've been terrible to me. I don't afford you. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I do appreciate it. Sorry that we.
Sorry that Dave couldn't be here, and I'm a little sick too.
Hey, it's. I will always have you on as a guest, no matter your medical standing.
So we just have to do it in the next 3 months, so I can be the only one who's been on here 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time today. And whatever you need from me, from Spike, from anybody at Muddy, let us know. We are willing to help. Love Dave. We support Dave, and everybody knows that yes, he is qualified to serve, and he rightfully won that seat, and he earned it, and he deserves it. And he needs to. And that's what he did 20 years ago doesn't.
But it does not matter. But what he did 2 weeks ago should. He spent 3 hours in a Grinch costume at a child's elementary school, and I think that shows you the kind of man he is now,
Right,
and not who he was. So
yeah, I wouldn't be 2 hours in a costume.
Side note, real quick, because it's hilarious. We live two blocks from the house. He got dressed at home, walked there through town as the Grinch in full character, and when even no one was around that he knew of, he was in character, and people noticed it when they were driving their kids to like volunteer and stuff, and he was just an absolute joy. The kids are still talking about how amazing he was, and I think that's the kind of person that you should want to have on your council, is someone who goes to the town tree lighting and goes to the town borough Christmas party and wants to be involved in the local community stuff. Like, that's who it is, and that's who Dave is, and that's what Dave wants to do, and we're just pleading with everyone to help us in making that happen.
And really anybody who's willing to Daniel Day-Lewis the Grinch, who's going to method act the Grinch, that's the person that I want up there serving me.
Yeah.
On the borough council. I drink your milkshake.
He was telling the kids that he was listening to their Christmas list while they were telling Santa, so that he knew which houses to go to take the best presents.
That's great. That's fantastic. I can imagine Jason Lyons. Definitely not me. I wouldn't do anything like that. I am way too kind. But no, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to tell to our audience before we sign off here tonight?
Just thank you for watching Matt's show. It's awesome, and he's awesome, and you should always watch it on Thursday nights when he decides, to have the podcast.
Right.
But
in all fairness, the weeks that I didn't have it was either because we had the Muddied Zoom, which you can be a part of if you go to Anchor/subscribe. And you can be a member of the Muddied Zoom once a month. And then 1 week was Thanksgiving. Then 1 week I had an emergency.
All I
is
heard
gonna
was
be on-
excuses. All I heard was excuses.
That-
No, in all seriousness, thank you for having me on, and just yeah, just help Dave, because I know he wants to serve, and if he can end up not serving, that's fine, because you're right, this is a springboard on so many other things. They're going to help so many more people, and that's Dave's goal. He'd actually been talking about starting a nonprofit to help people in prison figure out what abilities they have when they leave prison, what rights and everything that they have, and helping them get job placement and community service to have job skills and what have you. So this is just a springboard into so many more things that he has in his sight on his dream board. So
well, hopefully all of the dreams on his board come true. I think that's how that works. I never read The Wish or The Secret.
he does everything to make sure that I can do the stuff that I want to do. So I'm just going to make sure that I help him do everything he wants to do.
That's the relationship everybody should achieve for. That's the relationship everybody should want, because Sarah and I have this.
Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. For anybody who doesn't know,
He used all of that dealer money to buy her a
did.
big old ring.
I did. I used every penny of that card dealer that I still have, that I kept through all of those years of being an addict, to buy her that ring. No, but thank you so much. We are both very excited. Fun fact: grown up
Out of pure joy.
Out of pure joy. Out of pure joy. No, she had just actually gotten over being sick.
How romantic.
I know. I know, because that's the kind of romantic I am. I'm like, I've the last few days, and you know what?
I still want to see that face when I wake up.
That's right. It's the only face I want to see. Whenever. So, how about you married? And she was like, "Oh my God, yeah, yes." And I was like, well, "That does not bode well." And then I convinced myself it was like when you leave getting your car washed and a bird poops on it. They're like, "That's good luck." I'm like, "Yeah,
that's all that was." Yeah, I agree.
Well, no, thank you so much. I am going to close this out if you want to hang out for a couple of minutes. And if you go, because I get it. But I will talk to you soon either way.
Thank you.
To everybody, here's another free shot of Joe Solosky, because to everybody else, make sure that you go to the muddiedwatersmedia.com/store and pick up your gear today. If you want to become a member, all you have to do is head on over to anchor.fm/muddiedwaters/subscribe, and you get 10% off in the Muddied Waters store. You get monthly live Zoom meetings with Spike and myself and Jason Lyon and every other member of the Muddied team. You get 20% off at Defy the Power. You get exclusive content. There is so much packed in for what is literally less than 2 Starbucks drinks a month. For literal pennies a day, you could help feed. And that would be. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Join us back here, Muddied Waters Media, next Monday. Jason Lyon has Dan Berman on the show. Dan Berman is going to be here next Monday. And then I got to pull up my calendar because I didn't put these in the notes, because that's how I am. And then on Tuesday, of course, me and Spike Cohen, I know, are going to be parsing through the week's events. Like are we in winter? Is it winter yet? Is it like the sweet autumn cherubs that we are? Like the sweet autumn cherubs that we are. And it's going to be a great time. There's going to be the Christmas special. We are going to have a fun Christmas themed frame episode, and we are trying to get a message from Arnold who is going to be giving you a year-end wrap-up of all great things libertarians have done. And I'm going to try to put together a list of things that happened this year that you forgot about. So tune in for that. And then next week, you are not going to believe who Spike's guest is next Wednesday. You're not going to believe it. It's unbelievable, but he's going to have to tell you about it later. And then next Thursday, join me right here on the Writer's Block, 8 o'clock Eastern, for Amy Lepore, who was supposed to be on a couple of weeks ago, and I had to cancel, and to her, apologize profusely. But she was the vice chair, is the vice chair of the Delaware LP. And, well, there's some shenanigans going on, and we're going to talk about those shenanigans. So join me right back here next week, and have yourselves a fantastic week. Until next week, I am Matt Wright. You, perfect just the way you are.